Well, let's get started. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the October 24th, 2024 meeting of the Columbia Association Board of Directors. My name is Bill Santos. I am the chair. First order of business, we'll call roll here. Let's see, Chris? Is Chris online? Not yet. Okay. If you see him pop up, could you just let me know? Ashley, I believe she was going to be virtual also. Not yet. Sky.
Here.
Paul. Reg.
Here.
Karen.
Here.
Mike.
Here.
Eric. Here. Colin.
Here.
I'm here. Sean.
Here.
Sean is here. Very good. Just a few notes. We are recording this meeting. It is being live streamed and will be available on YouTube after the meeting. While we are at our meeting here, if you have a personal device, if you could silence it or turn it off. We want to make sure that people are heard during our meeting and are not overrun by any beeps or rings or anything like that. Let's see, it is a hybrid meeting. As I indicated, we have some people who will be joining us virtually and also here in the Columbia Association Vision Room. And welcome to everybody. I don't believe we have any closed meetings that were held in the last month. Okay. And that takes us to the approval of the agenda. Do you have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Reg has made the motion, and Mike has second. Is there any opposition to approval?
Yeah, someone had suggested that our emails be open to the public, and I was wondering if we were going to discuss that tonight, or?
I think that was a topic that was put on for our next Board Operations Committee agenda.
Okay.
So we'll do it at that time, if that's all right with the board. Okay, thank you, Sky. Any other discussion? Okay. And then we had discussion. How about we just do the roll on this one here? Chris, Ashley, Sky.
Yes.
Paul, no. Reg.
Yes.
Karen.
Yes.
Mike. Yes. Eric.
Yes.
Colin.
Yes.
And I say yes. All right, so 7-0-0. Very good. Next order of business is the Columbia update. Sean?
All right, we have some fun videos to share this meeting. The first is our spoof montage, which is over the last couple of months, our team has been working to highlight some of the incredible accomplishments throughout the organization that are featured in the annual report. Since this year's report is modeled off a yearbook, our video team wanted to lean into movies with schools at the center. This brought us to a handful of videos that copy scenes from films like Napoleon Dynamite, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and Breakfast Club, among others. These put different departments and teams across CA in the spotlight with the objective of having more people access the annual report and get a full scope of the impact we have in the community.
Hey, Napoleon, what did you do again all last summer?
I told you I was in Columbia hanging out at the lakefront.
Did you go to any lakefront live events?
Yes, like all of them. They were free to attend and there was a ton of stuff to do. What the heck would you do in a situation like that?
How many people were there?
Like 50,000. What do you think?
Both of you.
All right, and kudos to the amazing staff we have here that participate in those videos. They do a great job. Like could have second careers, I think, sometimes. And to our communications team, they do an awesome job in those videos. So
Someone needs to explain all those references to Colin, though.
Yeah, sure.
well, yeah, I think a few of those movies, some of the kids even participating, I don't know if they've seen the movies. Our next is during the month of October, we join the state and county to celebrate Walktober. Walking is the official state exercise of Maryland. The State Department of Transportation takes the opportunity to highlight multimodal transportation, and Howard County's Local Health Improvement Coalition focuses on the benefits of movement. Both themes are in line with what we do each and every day at CA through our wellness efforts and connectivity through the pathways. We've been celebrating Walktober all month long on social media, encouraging people to get involved. We asked one of our medical advisory board members to help us highlight the benefits of walking on many levels. So here's Dr. Abby for Walktober.
Hi, everyone. Happy Walktober. My name is Dr. Abby Washington Tabron. I'm a practicing psychologist and member of CA's Medical Advisory Board. And today I want to talk to you about walking. I was out for a walk the other day, and it occurred to me, walking is such a powerful metaphor for life in general. There are so many beautiful lessons along the way if we just take our time to observe them. There are so many similarities between the walks we take while we're on the path, as well as the walks that we take in life. Like, for example, how we all need to go at our own pace, and that's okay. And the times when we're taking a walk and sometimes the surface is flat and at other times it's hilly, it can be that way in real life, where sometimes life can feel flat or status quo, and other times it can feel really turbulent and like we're going uphill or downhill really fast. The important thing is to keep on the path and to keep moving forward. Walking is much more than just about movement, though. It's also about social connections. These soft connections, like greeting people along the way or stopping to pet a friendly dog, have more benefits to our mental health than we might actually think. So the next time that you're out for a walk, take some time to observe all the beautiful lessons along the way. See you on the trail.
All right, and our final video relates to our new CRM system. We're on the home stretch of introducing and implementing the new customer relationship management system to users all across CA. Multiple departments, from wellness to sales to customer care to finance, have been working countless hours to perfect this system and make the transition as seamless as possible. It has really been an all-hands-on-deck approach. This change will truly be an upgrade for the customer experience, streamlining the interface and making it easier to navigate all of the programs we offer. We encourage everyone to check out columbiaassociation.org/upgrade for the latest guides, information, and announcements associated with this transition. You can expect to see even more content around the improvements leading up to and following the launch of the new system set for right now, November 19th. While some of the final details are getting ironed out, we wanted to start sharing the excitement around these upgrades and the reason behind this important investment. We spoke with Dan Burns and Armsby Carbon, our IT director, about that. And here we are.
Our member management system impacts our community in so many ways. It houses all of our classes, our programs and services. It's how you register. It's how you interact. We always solicit feedback from the community on how we're delivering our products. And one of the biggest things we hear about is the availability and the usefulness of the member app and the online abilities and services that we can provide through our current provider, was that it just was not as friendly for the member or the customer or the community as it should be.
It's important for any sort of modernization effort that you look at to be better than what you had. Look at any of the gaps, look at any of the places within that customer journey that really creates friction, right? So it was really meaningful for us to pick that apart as we, started early on in this journey and really bringing that service delivery to you in your pocket, right, or on the desktop, no matter where you try to engage in those services. And I think that was really a big part of how we looked at, delivering efficient quality services in this upcoming project.
That online experience, primarily and predominantly through the member app, will be significantly improved. The computer or the web experience should be improved as well. The team and the facilities will have a better user experience so that even when you do have those interactions, that'll become a much smoother conversation and transaction. So everything will be just that much easier. And that's really where we're at with why we're doing this, to make that information more equitable and accessible to the community in a much more frictionless manner.
We understood that this is the right time to sort of, move forward with an initiative of this magnitude. And I would say that we are really taking it seriously so that we do this well for, our members. We are preparing for a change curve to carry our members through that process, because anything new is going to require that, right? So we are going to support our members as they go through and experience this new platform.
Everybody is on point, and they're focused on what do we need to do to make sure this is done right, so it's done with the best interest of the members and our community in mind. The team is ready, willing, and able, and can't wait to get it launched and to be able to actually show it off to the community. So they're there. They're ready to go.
That's it.
All right, thank you very much. Well, that was really nice.
I have a couple questions.
Okay, all right, Sky?
Is the archives open to the public, and where is it located, and do you have to make a reservation? And when the new CRM is deployed, will people still be able to call to register for a class? I know some of my friends prefer doing it that way.
Dan can provide that information.
Okay.
So the answer is the archives are right there, and behind that door. People can walk in. It is preferred to have an appointment, but you don't have to. If you make an appointment, then guaranteed either Aaron or Amy will be there and be able to assist you. But there is only 2 staff, and of course you'll be able to make reservations in person or over the phone. We just have many members who would prefer to do it digitally and have been asking for this upgrade for a very long time.
All right. All right, thanks, Sky, and thank you, Dan. And just really quick, that first frame of that.
That's awesome.
The CRM impacts people in many ways. It's just like, it's a setup meme. It's just fantastic, so.
They could have picked like 1 second earlier. I'm going to talk to Joe about
We'll work on that in post, I'm sure, yeah. All right. We are now at the resident speak out section of our meeting. Just really quick, individuals will have 3 minutes. People speaking for a group will have 5. We have 5 people who signed up. Just so you folks know, order that we got them here is Larry Gross will be first, followed by Kat Wee, and then Bob Dover. I'll update that once we get through the first 2 there. So is Larry available either here in the room or online?
Not online.
No? Okay, we'll hold that place, and maybe he'll get here by that time. Kat Wee?
Hello, I'm Kat Wee from Wild Lake Village. I'm speaking for myself and also all the marginalized people who are called tenants who don't really get to vote because of the apartheid system of voting in Columbia Association. They have to jump through so many hoops in order just to have a vote. But what I'm here for today is September 12th, Colin Sullivan. I was really happy to see that you are very interested in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and of course belonging. And I was happy to see that someone on this board cares about that, because when I watched the May 9th meeting where you were selecting your chair, and there was a very nice board member, Keith O'Neill, I believe, and during that meeting, I guess 5 of you decided to go behind the backs of the other 5 and have a little discussion about who was going to be chair, unbeknownst to the other 5 people, and they were blindsided by you guys. And he was very upset, and I watched it 2 times just to make sure I got it right, like what was going on. And it was very clear what was going wrong is that he saw the treachery, the politics in it, that you couldn't have even had a nice discussion with this man who was eminently qualified as a CEO himself to be be chair, and instead 5 of you, because it kept coming back 5 and 5, 5 and 5. So I watched you during the break, and I could see by body language who voted which way. And those 5 members were Bill Santos of Wild Lake, Michael Libersich of Owen Brown, Sky Anderson of Hickory Ridge, Colin Sullivan of Town Center, and Ashley Vaughn of Harper's Choice voted for Bill over Keith. And 2 of you is especially treacherous because Bill and Sky were on this board with Keith, and they couldn't have called or had a discussion with him. They blindsided this man. And given, according to niche demographics of Columbia, 44% white, 28% African-American, 13% Asian, 9% Hispanic, 5% 2 or more races, 1% other race. This is Columbia. Look at this board of 10 people. Wow, does not look like Columbia. I look like I live in probably one of the whiter areas of Maryland if I look at this board. And so I think you need to take that DEI to the board here and say, how come we don't represent Columbia? Especially, I bet nobody here actually rents. Because to be a renter, I know at least in the village of Wild Lake, you have to register your lease the day before elections. You have to jump through all these hoops. So guess how many people who are tenants vote in the elections? 0. And so they don't get a voice. So I'm going to be their voice today and say, why does this board look the way it does? And then I just watched the last meeting, which was hilarious to me because there's 2 of you who just don't get it. Student loan debt in America is strangling young people, Colin Sullivan, strangling them.
Ms. Wade,
and you're complaining about homeownership and being a new homeowner.
Ms. Wade, your time is up.
And the golf thing, 51% of golfers are millionaires. I have articles if you'd like them.
Ms. Wade, thank you for your
talk.
time. I appreciate your comments.
You're welcome.
Eric?
I do have a question for the speaker. I do have a question for the speaker, a clarifying question. At the beginning of your presentation, you mentioned that tenants somehow have lesser voting rights. I know the bylaws of River Hill fairly well. I'm not as versed in the bylaws of the other villages. I know in River Hill, everyone has equal voting rights, whether they're a tenant or homeowner. Every resident has the right to vote. I realize the rules are slightly different. So the question I have is, why do you say that tenants don't have the same voting rights in other villages? What is holding?
I'll tell you exactly what's holding them back.
They're all allowed to vote.
They're allowed to vote, but
so what's holding them back?
I just show up and give them my name, and I can vote that day or can vote online if I'm in Wild Lake. If I live in Wild Lake and I'm renting, I have to make sure I get to the Columbia Association before 4 p.m. the day before voting to prove that I have my lease and my ID, and then, only then, the next day, do I get to vote? A lot of people don't have that kind of time on their hands, especially when you're renting, and some of these people might be working 2 jobs, so they don't end up voting at all. They go, I don't have time to do all this. I could go and vote for president by just giving it my name. You have to have more proof. And some of the villages, I'm told you have to bring an electric bill. It's all this stuff. You can't just show them your ID. You need more proof to vote in a village election than to go and vote for a president on November 4th.
I know in River Hill, everyone can just bring their ID. I'm still a little confused why tenants have to bring more information and have to show up twice versus homeowners. Is that the case?
It is the rules, and each village board has a different one. I know Wild Lake, it's very constricting, which is why 0 people who rent voted in the last election. 0.
0?
Yeah.
All right. So, okay.
No, go ahead.
You sure?
Yep.
Okay. Reg?
All right, thank you.
I'm trying to run the meeting.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I want to introduce myself to you. I'm Reg Avery.
I know who you are.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too. I just want to point out that I do represent Columbia. I mean,
I know you do.
yeah, I'm your guy. If you need someone who's Asian, well, I'm Asian. If you want black, I'm black.
I know you're the only
Native
person of color right now on this board.
Yeah.
Trust me, I know that.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here, and I wish Keith was still here.
Sky?
Yeah.
Ms. Weed, just one more question, please.
I agree with you that there has been and is a lack of diversity on the board. That has been a topic of conversation for several years. And I don't know what the board can do about that. I think that goes back to the villages because the villagers select their representatives. And I was wondering if you have any ideas how the villages could do a more diverse job of supplying their representatives.
Make it easier for renters to vote, one. Two, when you have a person of color and you're also on the board, try not to drive them away. I mean, seriously, Sky. And I have an article for you on golfing, on 51% of golfers are millionaire billionaires. I feel like you're tone deaf, like you don't get what real people in Columbia go through.
Ms. Wee, please, no personal attacks.
It's not a personal attack. I'm just trying to educate people.
Ms. Wee.
And this article is from Forbes.
Thank you. All right. Bob Dover will be up next, followed by Sharon Boyes, and then Mr. William Campbell.
Thanks, Bill. I did register, and then I didn't have time to put together a presentation, so I'm going to pass it on. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for showing up. I appreciate it. All right. Ms. Boyes?
And I don't have time, but I do have something to add about Longfellow voting. Don't have time, because I'm on the election committee there.
It was a ghost.
I know you missed me. Thank you. Sorry.
Well done, Sharon.
Oh, wow.
All right.
Good way to start. Good. I think so.
Are we all good?
But it's a little low. This is what started the whole problem. Okay. Oh, boy.
All right.
I'm sorry, guys.
That's fine.
Thank you. Yeah,
Hey,
that's
Sharon,
good. That's
Sharon,
good. Yeah.
before you start, just take a deep breath and then go ahead, okay? There you go.
you.
You're welcome.
Good evening, board members and Mr. McGinnis. It's been a while. I hope everyone is well and you all had a great summer. Thanks for this opportunity. I know those little gumballs can be pesky, but man, the sweet gum trees this year are just spectacular. Like fireworks in the sky, and the maples and even the oaks are just so beautiful, aren't they? I heard that when I was away, Lake Elkhorn spoke. This time it wasn't an algae bloom or a fish kill, it was the dam. For those of you who might not remember, there were concerns raised by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service that the Lake Elkhorn Stream project as proposed could have compromised the integrity of the dam, which is classified as a high hazard dam with a large population of people living below it downstream. Apparently the dam needed some work, which required the water level to be lowered, and what to our wondering eyes did appear, Lake Elkhorn vividly displayed for anyone who cared enough to see exactly what the reason is that the lake needs periodic dredging. Sediment piles at the outfalls where they dump into the lake. I tried to show some of this stuff to some of you on walks, and with the pink dot poster, Mike, and how many remember the excellent presentation by the late Doug Myers, the head scientist of the Chesapeake Bay Foundation? If you haven't seen it yet, I suggest you check it out. It's the board meeting from January 12th, 2023. The lake showed us if there is a dam, there will be a need to dredge. We've created these impoundments, these lakes and ponds. When we have a dam in place, the stream can no longer transport sediment downstream. We've interrupted the natural flow process. This isn't a local problem. This is any dam. Sediment is natural. It's needed, and it can't be stopped. But we can and should reduce what enters our lakes and ponds and streams by implementing out-of-stream and upland practices that capture and filter polluted stormwater runoff before it reaches our waterways. Sediment is heavy, and it falls to the bottom of the lake. The current pushes it along downstream until it hits the dam, a wall that it can't get over. So it sits there and accumulates. where it will stay until a dam collapses or it's dredged. Dams equal dredging, and there's simply no way around it. Stream restorations do not reduce dredging because they don't reduce ongoing accumulation in our streams, because they don't cure or fix the root cause of erosion, which is gritty, dirty stormwater runoff blasting into our creeks and streams. Think about how many rain gardens and grants for conversion of pervious surfaces from concrete $2 million could have bought for Longfellow. That would have been far more effective at reducing the runoff and need to dredge Wild Lake than what took place. And we would have still had our beautiful mature forests to enjoy right now. These projects are performed for pollution and developer credits, not to reduce dredging costs. Our lakes and ponds are supposed to be on a routine schedule where they're inspected for maintenance and possible dredging about every 6 to 8 years. But inexplicably, Lake Elkhorn wasn't dredged for the first time until it was approximately 30 years old. We waited until it couldn't get any worse and any more expensive before we did something about it. And now we have people spreading misinformation around that it needs to be or even has been dredged every few years. And some have even spread disinformation that somehow a destructive stream restoration is going to greatly reduce the need. Don't buy this stuff, you guys. It's nonsense, and you're smarter than that. Dredging is expensive, so what do? Just like pets, we must become responsible dam owners. We must clean up their messes if we want to have healthy lakes and ponds. So in our new budget, we must set aside money each year into a dredging fund so this does not become a financial burden for us. We must continue all the good stuff we're doing, like installing bioretentions and planting native species and trees, and all the things I've talked about for years now. But we must fund the rain garden program, and we must preserve our mature trees instead of paying someone $1 million a year for pruning and to cut them down. I'm asking again for CA to investigate the costs of owning or leasing their own equipment for dredging versus paying a contractor. I begged for the county for a Green Streets program, and we must get the county to fix their failing BMPs in the watershed. We can't turn into bad dam owners. If we can't afford to dredge the lakes and take care of them, then maybe we shouldn't have them. Until the next time, and as always, thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you for your consideration. I hope everyone is able to enjoy a walk in the glorious fall colors.
All right, great. Thank you, Sharon. Reg has a question for you.
Yeah, Sharon, real quick. You mentioned an acronym, BMP.
Best management practice, management, like bioretentions,
Sure.
bioswales, rain gardens. The county really has a good number of those in the Lake Elkhorn watershed. Brian England paid a professional to come in and do an assessment of that watershed. And that professional determined, that expert determined that a fair number of those that are the county's responsibility are failing over there. And I think that we need to really impress upon the county that it's their responsibility to get in there and fix those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our last resident tonight, Mr. William Campbell.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Last month, I came in and made a short presentation, and I made a request. First, I did get some questions from some of the board members. I hope that I answered them. Are there any questions about what I provided, whether it's correct, incorrect? Seeing none, I'm going to assume what I gave you was correct. And I had a request that I asked the board to direct the president to put forward a budget that would include no additional cost pools. And can I get an idea of when you might decide whether you will or will not do that?
Well, Mr. Campbell, we're early in our budget process.
Right.
We're just talking on a strategic level at this point. So it won't be tonight.
I'm not looking, I'm looking for, I don't know what your budget timeline is.
Yeah.
So I'm looking to see approximately when I could get a yay or nay on whether you're going to do that or not.
Okay. Karen?
I thought that when we had our budget discussion, I thought Sean had directed the staff to, when they were producing their budget models, to produce a budget model that had the cost for the play membership zeroed out.
We're just talking strategy at this point, I believe.
Say that again?
I believe we're just talking strategy at this point. We haven't gotten to any direction.
Right, but Sean was taking notes, and he made a comment to staff at that time, if I remember correctly, that we were going to do that.
I can provide some clarification. So an analysis would need to be done to see what the actual impact would be to providing no-cost pools. And it's not just a projection of revenue that's available, it's also what is that impact on the community, what's that impact on memberships, what's that impact on people in need. So we can, we can discuss that with the board. If the board wants to pursue that, that's not something we would budget for FY26. We would do an appropriate analysis to make sure that CA is doing the right thing for the long term, not just for the short term.
Well, that's helpful. What you said was you will not do it for FY26.
Right now, we're in the middle of budget process.
I'm just looking for a date. The reason that this is important is My Village, Owen Brown, their recent newsletter said that they are in support of you buying a new headquarters. That'll probably be $12, $14 million. And based on the analysis I gave you, you can afford both. But I'll tell you, if you want to build a headquarters or buy a headquarters, and you're not going to give better value to the residents, I would say to you what Scipio Africanus told the Carthaginians: look to your defenses, because this will not go away. You can't live in a bubble. You have to serve the people that live here. And if you don't want to do that, fine. Just be upfront with it, let them know, and then they'll do whatever they're going to do. But I made a request. You said you're not going to do it next year, this coming fiscal year. That's fine. At least I have an answer. I don't like the answer, but at least I have one. Thank you.
We'll just wrap this up. Eric?
So I do notice on our agenda today, we do have a discussion for strategic priorities.
Yes.
This could certainly be a strategic priority that could be discussed tonight. Second question is, so you mentioned the headquarters, and you mentioned free pools. So to put that in perspective, one headquarters equals how many years of free pools roughly?
Well, it depends on how you're going to finance it. I am not an expert in taxes and for organizations like CA that are not-for-profit. But it seems to me that it doesn't make much sense to go out and borrow the money to buy a headquarters because you don't get any benefit from paying the interest. And at 6%, which I would assume to be about what you pay right now on a commercial note, in 12 years, you will have paid twice as much as if you took 3 or 4 years and saved the money and then bought the place outright. Am I correct?
Yeah, this is Speak Out. This is not resident question.
Oh, last time you talked to me about the $1,180 or $1,200, so I figured you might have some input.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for your comments tonight.
Thank you.
Mr. Campbell. All right. And thanks, everybody, for coming out tonight. We'll move on to the consent agenda. On the consent agenda is the draft minutes from September 26th of this year, 2024. Is there any objection to the consent agenda? Okay. Hearing no objection, that is approved. On to old business. First, as was just referenced, the board budget 2026 strategic priorities. Sean, if you can just get us kicked off here on this.
Sure. Susan Krabbe is going to give us a brief presentation.
Thank you.
To follow up on last month's meeting.
Okay.
So we just put in slides really so that you all could focus a little bit and so the community could see where you are in the process. So just to summarize, this is the schedule. The schedule's on our website and it shows you the timeline. So right now, You're up at the top right. We're talking about the board strategic priorities for the budget. You had a discussion last meeting, and the reason that this is important and the timing is critical is then we have to quickly move into getting some draft projections together for you based on those priorities. So then we want to be ready to do that in November, for you to have a couple discussions in November and December on those. And then in December, give us kind of the yay or nay with where you are with what we've produced, so we can develop a draft budget, and that'll come out in January. So all along here, we've had a month almost of online feedback from the community, and other options coming up, on online feedback on what we put out in November and again in January. So this process, we engage the community directly, early and often, and we're working really hard to reach out to stakeholders who haven't participated before. In years past, we would ask you to set some key parameters very early. The feedback was that you didn't want to do that, or previous boards didn't want to do that. So we're moving that up for a few months and asking you to do that in this meeting, or to set your strategic priorities, and then in December ask you to settle on some key variables, with the whole budget being approved in February. So just, we've changed a lot through COVID and all of the challenges that we've had. We've clearly demonstrated, and you all who have been on the board for a few years have seen it, that we can manage our expenses to revenue. And as revenues recover, the costs will increase, because we provide services that are primarily labor and supply dependent. We've worked really hard on process improvements. We've gone essentially paperless. We've worked to improve efficiency and to reduce the costs, before inflation. So we've took a hard situation and tried to make the best of it with COVID, and analyzing operations and just getting us more efficient. And we continue to look constantly at community accessibility and engagement, and that's driving programming and access, even to this new CRM that we were talking about earlier. So inflation, where are we? We have external constraints that are coming together to impact us in ways that are very interesting, and create some significant challenges. So yes, the rate of inflation is slowing, but our prices are significantly higher. We were talking earlier today about we have at least 3-year contracts for goods and services, and a lot of them renewed in 22 and 23, and we saw double-digit increases for things that we have to have every day. So that was a real challenge for us. We have seen the first of a series of what we would anticipate to be rate cuts by the Federal Reserve. That was later than we thought, and I think later than a lot of people, but we are factoring that into our projections for next year and future cuts. We still have some supply chain challenges. We're continuing to struggle with vehicles, for example, and for HVAC equipment and specialized electrical equipment. And so, and then staffing and recruiting is still a challenge, especially for customer-facing positions, but also for those with some in-demand skills. We have 3 vacancies right now, vacant positions in the IT department, and it's just a challenge to fill those jobs. We had somebody come and go. We had someone else pull back. We accepted an offer and they changed their mind, and it's not easy. So we included just to provide you some context of where the world is and what the impact is on Columbia Association. These are external constraints where we really can't do anything about them. And Michael, you had asked, why are we including this and what's the impact? The impact, right now we have the dollar value for that investment projection, but we're still working on minimum wage and compression adjustments and some of these other things. So again, I just talked about how prices increased over these periods, and it's not consistent. It's what the period is described in the block. And then we're looking at, spent time today looking at the impact of this, the next minimum wage increase and what kind of impact that has on the staff and the positions, right around that $16 an hour and on. This property and casualty insurance premiums, this has been unbelievable, really, if you look at that and the pressure on the insurance. And it's, we were talking about that earlier at the Risk Management Committee meeting. General liability was a challenge, but the property's been difficult, the auto liability's been difficult, and we have a pristine auto record. It doesn't matter, you know, we're still bearing the consequences of what the industry, you know, what's happening in the markets. And then we are seeing, you know, we really, kudos to Lynn Schwartz as a treasurer, just really did very well on investments with even, you know, as conservative as our investment policy is over the past couple of years, which is $2 million, you know, to last year's bottom line for investment income. So we're already seeing that to be two-thirds, we're projecting that to be two-thirds of that amount for next year at this point, you know, and we'll see what shakes out over the next quarter with the Fed. So this discussion is to give us the high-level objectives, the strategic, you know, guidance that we need. In November, December, as I said, you'll further refine that, and then we'll use all of that guidance to develop the draft budget document that you and the community will see in January. So this is what we gathered from the discussion on September 26th at your last meeting. These were the priorities, and several of us listened to watched the recording multiple times, but these were the 7 that it seems that the board ended the discussion with. And they're in line in many ways with the strategic plans that are under development, or the one that was accepted last year but not approved, and even the 2019 plan. And I included here also, this is last year for FY25, and you see again on here grants, you see accessibility and affordability, you see the environment, and so there's a lot of alignment, which is nice. There's continuity, but there are some new things. You know, there's an emphasis more here on IT, on data collection, and so you're putting your fingerprint on this, but there is continuity with what's going on in the organization. So it's up, you know, the rest is up to you for discussion. Just remind you this is where we are, and you know the process moves on. And that's what I had.
Okay. All right, just quickly, just some questions, if they're general questions. Mike?
I guess this is more of a question for the board more than Susan. Like, I don't remember grants being on our list. Maybe I'm wrong about that. And
I don't recall that either, Michael. I'll agree.
Like, I know I mentioned it, but I mentioned it in the context of, like, I want to get ahead of that, not necessarily that it's a priority for me. So I think that's just like a discussion item for the board, if that was really our intent to include it, because I don't remember that.
From a strategic level discussion you're talking about.
Right, like not any specific grant, but just do we want to make that a priority to have funding set aside for grants in the next budget? Like, I didn't think that was a priority for us.
Okay.
So point of order, is there a motion on the table that we can discuss?
Just wanted to get quick questions out on the table, and then we'll start with a motion. We'll get to that in just a moment, all right?
Okay.
All right, anybody else? Reg?
Yeah, just a quick question for you, Susan. Is our, what's it called, our bond rating, are we still, was it AAA or?
No, we've never been AAA. We're AA plus. So
AA plus?
AA plus.
Okay, so that's still good.
Yeah, that's a creditor issuer rating, and we would, if we were going to go out to, when we go out to issue debt, we'll get that updated, but that's what it is as of now.
And is that because of COVID or what we went through? Or
done before COVID,
before?
So yeah.
Okay, I'm just curious. Thank you.
Okay. If we could get the screen back up with the focus areas that were listed, that would be helpful in our discussion. There it is. Okay. And Mike, when we get to grants, since it's at the end, we'll just make a decision at that point, okay? All right. I'd like to start with maybe somebody making a motion with respect to one of these others. But the be-all, end-all, you know, as this went last year, I'll get to you guys. As we did this last year, for each of these strategic priorities, we developed an amplifying statement to provide guidance to staff so that they could go forth and work on the parameters of the budget. So I think that's the exercise we're looking to do here. Okay, we'll start with Mike.
I don't think we're going to be able to wordsmith in this group a sentence for each of these things, and I think that would be kind of foolhardy. I think I trust that the staff listening to us, our conversations, understand generally where we're going for with each of these. Okay. So I would like to make a motion that we approve numbers 1 through 6 as the strategic priorities for the budget for FY26.
Okay.
I'll second that if we can just get the discussion going.
Okay, we'll do that. That's all right. All right, Eric.
So I'd like to amend the motion to rephrase 4 to focus on reducing resident costs. That includes resident membership costs and resident annual charge costs. So I want to make 4 a little clearer to focus on reducing resident costs. So that's my amendment to the motion.
I'll second that.
Okay. Do we have any discussion on? Okay, Karen.
I mean, Bill, if you're not going to call on me, just let me know and I won't come to the board.
I'd be happy to call on you. I was just looking. I'm trying to do all the paperwork here too, so let's work on that.
So, yeah, okay, so I thought we had to have the motion and the second so that we could actually have the discussion, and then Eric offered up his amendment. So now are we discussing the amendment?
Yes.
Okay, I'm good with that. Okay, so I'm good on the amendment. I think that's important. One of the things that I'm concerned about is last year we asked for affordability and accessibility, and it seemed like everything was status quo from the year before. The rates went up 3%. The rates still went up 3% for all the memberships. There was no effort at all to reduce costs there. At the same time, we also said we wanted to see an increase in residents who use the programs and the services. I do not know that we even saw that. Did we see an increase year over year in resident membership? So those things didn't get worked on. So I would like all of that to be included in affordability and accessibility. This is where, and I also have a question about why we're doing analysis this year to zero out the pools, and we can't just do the analysis now to see if we can do it this year. Why do we have to wait till next year to zero out pools for the 2026 season or the 2025 season? I don't understand why we can't do that.
Well,
why can't we walk and chew gum at the same time?
Okay. Thank you. Sky?
I think I can add to why we shouldn't do it this year. If we zero out the pools, is that the same as doing away with the play membership? And if we do away with the play membership, there's the fit and play. Do we do away with the play part of the fit and play? And I think it's obvious that all 6 plans are interrelated. If it's kind of like a spider web, if you tweak one thing, it affects other things. And I think it's probably worth re-looking at the 6 plans, but I can see that would be a major undertaking and would take, a year of work to redevelop something because those plans were developed a few years ago and times have changed. So I don't see any major change like that. And it's not just the pools. If we make the pools freer, they're going to be more supervisors hired, there's going to be more security hired, there's going to be more more cleaning, more painting, more all of that. Not only does it affect the pools if we make a change to zero out the pools, but it affects all the other programs because people, we would have to recoup some of that by increasing the other programs, and we would probably lose some of the membership in the other programs.
Eric?
So there's a couple ways you can do it. I obviously don't want to micromanage this too much, but you could just say, okay, for residents, the play membership comes with your annual charge. So you pay the annual charge and you get a card for a play membership. And then I realized there's a CA Fit and Play membership, and you could just make that equal to the One Fit membership. So that would sort of solve that problem. I'm not going to get too micromanaging beyond that, but I think this is a real opportunity for the board to take a more inclusive approach. If we make the pools free or at least significantly cheaper, you'll encourage more residents to use it. Right now, less than 30% of our residents even have a membership to use the pools in the first place. And that doesn't strike me as very inclusive. If we allow everybody to use it as part of living here, as part of paying your annual charge, I think that's a lot more inclusive, and that really hits on one of our strategic priorities.
Okay. All right, thank you. Eric, I'm going to get Mike, but quick note for you. Membership does not equal usage, and we need to make sure we're cognizant of that. Not this last summer, but the summer before, we had over 400,000 people go to the pools, which was a top 5 year, I believe. Usage is off the charts. It's the members that you're talking about. We need to actually talk about who actually shows up. Those memberships are well utilized.
We don't have 400,000 residents.
We have 400,000 visits.
So we don't have 400,000 residents. So the question is, what percentage of our residents are actually being able to take advantage of our amenities?
Okay,
so
that's different from usage. That's not how well they're used. So, Mike?
We're off topic. We're supposed to be discussing strategic priorities, not specific ways to implement those priorities, which when we're talking about price structures or anything like that, we're well below the strategic level. I think everyone in here agrees that affordability and accessibility, however you want to phrase it, means that we don't want cost to prohibit people from taking advantage of different amenities, right? We all support that, so it should be a strategic goal. How it gets implemented is below what we're discussing right now. And so, Mr. Chair, please keep us on focus.
Karen.
So my issue with this is that we asked for all of this last year. And when you looked at the budget, it really wasn't that different from the year before. We asked for affordability and accessibility. We talked about the fact that we didn't have a lot of residents who were participating in programs and facilities, and there was no change. The budget that was produced, I personally felt like the budget that was produced ignored what the board actually asked for. So I am hammering this home, is that I really want to see a budget that actually encourages the residents to participate in what we're offering. We focus so much attention on Lakefront Live and other things that so many of our residents don't participate in. We're encouraging non-residents to enjoy everything that the residents are subsidizing. When do the residents start to get something of value for living in Columbia? Right now, it actually costs you more as a resident because you're paying CPRA, and then you pay the membership fee. It's actually costing you more to become a member than it is a non-resident.
Thank you, Karen. Colin.
I hear a lot of different points that I agree with, and I'm trying to synthesize it all. I really want to go back to Sky's earlier point, though, that and Mike, I think that what I might suggest is maybe a little too weedy, but I understand, and I want to keep it strategic. And Karen, what I'm thinking about is something that we could actually tangibly see in the budget. I do wonder if we were to take a more holistic approach of looking at all of our offerings and all of our costs and all of the memberships, and if there's a possibility to create new tiers or different tiers, I think that's going to take a lot of work. And I'm wondering if in the budget if we work with external partners, or if we find a consultant to help us in that work and figure out what our best practices, how do we fare in the market. But, having different options as a means to be more accessible, I think could open our amenities up to more people. And again, I just think that this is going to take time and effort to be able to do this kind of work.
That's a good point.
Can I speak?
Sure, Sean. Yeah.
So I think, we've been talking about this internally. Obviously, it's been a concern of the board. And kind of our path is, once the board agrees on strategic priorities for the budget, we'll move forward. In part of the capital budget process is we're looking at funding, a consultant review of kind of how our memberships, how free pools would have an effect on that, what the implications would be, not only just if pools were no charge, but what if golf is no charge, and what if facilities are no charge, and what if other things. So to really do a proper analysis to see what's affordable for CA in the long term, and what can be done, and then bring that back next year to say, well, we've done an analysis to look at not just what years 1 through 3, but for the next 5 to 10 years, what does that look like? Another part of that is what we'd like to fund is an economic study. So we have not done an economic study in over 10 years. So a big part of that is looking into, what is Columbia going to look like over the next 5 to 10 years, and what is, national and global economy, and how's that going to affect things, so that decisions that the board makes now don't have major implications because we weren't, looking at what the future is for the overall economy. So those are 2 items we're looking to fund as part of the capital budget.
Okay, Sky? Oh, Eric?
So I'm looking at last year's financials. Last year, we ended the year with $33 million in liquidity. That's actually up almost $4 million from the year beforehand, where we ended the year beforehand with $29 million in liquidity. And we're an HOA, we're a nonprofit. Our goal is not to just build up heaps and heaps and heaps of liquidity. So my question for Sean is, what's our strategy? How do you recommend us utilizing this liquidity for the benefits of our residents?
Well, I mean, we certainly need to look at the long-term capital plan. We talked about maybe the possible purchase of a headquarters or not. And we have a 10-year capital plan that we want to look at to make sure that, we haven't had, aside from the tennis club, there has not been a new construction of a facility in Columbia, and we don't know how long. Not that we're planning to do that, but these are things we need to plan for the next 10 to 20 years. What is that going to look like? And do we need to start stewarding funds to make sure that financial impact, when it does happen, is affordable for the entire community? So keeping things affordable for the community is important, because that's what the board would like to see.
All right, Mike?
Yeah, just a reminder for the board that outside of the budget, we gave an annual goal to Sean to analyze opportunities to add value or reduce costs for CA facilities, program service. So this is already something we've directed them to do. We don't need to shoehorn it into the budget to get all this analysis done. This is already a task that they've been given for this year.
All right. Reg, did you have any comment?
Yeah. I thought I'm going to have to agree with Michael on something that, I think we are getting away from where we were supposed to be discussing the strategic priorities. And I understand I do want to discuss the pools because that's an important thing for me. But I think we're getting away from the topic of the initiatives, and I really wish we'd get back to that. Yeah. Cover what we need to. Are we going to agree on these as being the final priorities, and then let's go back and discuss things like the pools and stuff. But I think we're skewing away from it right now.
Just a quick follow-up for you. The Community Programs and Services Insight under new business might be a good place to ask about that, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, with that, I think we'll call the question, if that's all right with everybody.
Are we going to vote on Eric's amendment?
That's what we're calling it. Yes, that's what we're going to vote on. All right. Ready?
Can you repeat the amendment?
Yes. The motion was to reduce residents' costs with respect to goal number 4, affordability and accessibility. Right, Eric?
Yes.
Okay. We'll start with Colin.
No.
Eric?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Reg?
Yes.
Sky?
Yes.
I will vote no. So that's 3-3.
You got Mike.
I'm sorry. Mike.
Point of order. Does Mike get a vote?
Yes. Okay.
No.
No. All right. So that's 3-2, 3-4. That's what it is.
What's the roll call on that?
Eric, Reg, Karen, yes. Sky?
Sky, yes.
And Sky voted yes.
Sky, yes.
You were a yes?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So reduce residents' costs. I'm sorry. I screwed that up. Reduce residents' costs will be amended into the full approve 1 through 6. Sky?
I'd like to make an amendment to include 7 grants.
Okay. Do we have a second? No. All right. Thank you for the motion, though, Sky. All right. Any other discussion on the?
I do have one question.
Yes.
Could someone describe what 3 means? What does 3 actually mean? Return on investment. What investments are we talking about?
Return on investment, value and utilization. Mike, I think that you had a lot on that.
It just means that we want CA to prioritize investing in high-value amenities, things that get a lot of use and deliver value to residents, and not things that are underutilized. So hypothetically, if we think that Lakefront Live or something like that is underutilized, that we shouldn't be investing in it. We should have a way of kind of assessing those.
So this is a CA investment versus a financial.
Correct.
Financial.
Correct.
Vehicle.
The value and utilization and the way we're investing in the services and amenities that CA provides.
Okay. Anything else? Karen?
Yeah, can I make an amendment to number 3 that return on investment focuses on residents? Return on investment for residents and their value and utilization, since they are the ones who have the majority support in this
I'll second that.
I'll just accept it as a friendly amendment.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Can we make that note administratively that residents will be included for number 3? Okay. Anything?
Sorry.
Yes.
Just a question about that. So that's return on investment for residents. That would not include like commercial annual charge payers?
Well, no, they're paying the annual charge, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So for annual charge payers?
Yeah.
Okay, not residents?
The people who are supporting this organization,
Okay.
right? So, for instance, just to give you an example, Lakefront Live. How many residents do Lakefront Live? We don't know. That's fine. You don't have to answer that one. How many residents are on the Columbia Neighborhood Swim League?
That's roughly fluctuates between 1,500 and 2,000 families.
But how many, what is the percentage of families on Columbia Neighborhood Swim League that are residents? Because last year, Bill, you told me that the majority of the people on the Columbia Neighborhood Swim League were not residents. It's one of our most popular programs. I believe there's a cost barrier. I think there's a lot of residents who would like to participate. I've heard people say, we could finally afford the pool this year, and we did Neighborhood Swim League, and they love it. So I actually think that that's something that a lot of residents would like to do, but we don't know, because we don't. Do we know?
I was interested in understanding, just here, if this was related to all.
That's I think that's what Michael was talking about, like we're offering these things. Do the residents find value in it?
Okay, so just the residents.
Yeah.
So just, Mike, I know what you're going to say, so please say it, and I will agree.
No, I was just wondering if Karen, could you just change your thing to lien payers instead of residents? Was that still jive with what you're
I'm fine with that. That's fine.
Okay.
We're getting very deep into tactical if we're trying to figure out, this is a strategic number, right?
Sure.
You're trying to figure out the.
You wanted to tell me I had a hair on me.
Yeah.
You're fine, Michael.
So, yeah, if we're trying to do a strategic plan here, a strategic initiative for the budget, and we're getting into the mix of residents and non-residents in the Neighborhood Swim League versus anecdotal evidence.
I think strategically, we should always be focused on residents, those people who are paying the lien.
Okay.
So.
And by the way, residents include people who work in commercial properties.
Right.
Located on CA land.
Right.
So I do include them because of that lien. They also include renters.
Yeah, I don't think
Tenants don't necessarily pay the lien, but it's incorporated into the rent, so
I think we're in
include
violent
them.
agreement on this.
Yeah, Karen, I don't think we've ever said that we were going to disregard residents. I think residents have always been the center of this discussion anyway. Eric?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that when we're talking, and I'm not sure what terms we should be using, because every time we pick a term, I feel like we miss something. But we need to include pretty much everyone that's either paying the annual charge or paying the annual charge through the rent. So we should include tenants, homeowners, community members, businesses. So everyone that is contributing to this organization through the annual charge, whether it's directly or indirectly. So I hope I covered the entire scope with that, but that's the point.
Okay. Colin,
What is the current motion on the floor?
I'm still trying to figure that out. What is the
Okay.
motion we're discussing?
I believe we're at the main motion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right, okay.
All right. So, yes, there was a question.
Well, Michael accepted my
Friendly.
friendly amendment,
Yes.
so.
All right. Are we finished with our discussion on this motion? All right. Sky,
Can you repeat the motion?
the motion is to approve items 1 through 6 as our strategic priorities for the budget process. With the amendment that number 3 is amended to lien payers.
And 4 has been
number
amended.
4 has been amended.
We passed that amendment, yes.
We passed amendment 4.
Yes.
Okay, yes. We're off to the races here. Reg?
Yes.
Yes. Karen?
Yes?
Mike?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Colin?
Yes.
Yes, and I will say yes. Unanimous.
Hallelujah.
And Bill, Chris is here. I arrived at 8:02.
Okay.
If I can vote, I'm also a yes.
Okay. We will include you, yes. Thank you. Welcome to the meeting, Chris.
Thanks.
All right, so that's 8:00. All right. Thank you all. Next, vote on the review and renewal of the emergency cash reserves policy. Sean?
Susan is going to update the board on that as well.
Okay.
So the material basically hasn't changed since last time. I didn't have any follow-up questions to address. There was some question about the risk matrix and what's included in uninsurable legal expenses and why not property. So what's making up that balance is the limits on cyber, employment practices, D&O, and flood, because those are limits that we don't have excess sitting over top of. And we didn't include property because those are insured at the cost, basically the replacement cost of the building. So there isn't an uninsured exposure there other than for flood. That's just, we can't get as much flood insurance as one would like. And so I want not to get into the weeds, but those coverages are important, and they're often engaged. More than one line is engaged in a claim. So, for example, it's not uncommon to have a D&O and an employment practice claim from one incident. So that's why these are typically considered a uninsured risk. So just wanted to get back into the details on that. But we would just, we think the program, it's only 3 years old. I think seems to be working well. The audit committee's been satisfied with the annual reports and the status. I think it's kudos to you and to the board that approved it in the first place and has improved, as you've approved funding. It's something that has been an issue for our lender in COVID to not have those cash reserves. So I think this is a great thing that you're doing, and I just would say leave it as is and revisit it. We could get an annual report and revisit it again in a couple years.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll motion that we renew the reserve policy.
I second it.
Mike and Sky. All right, discussion. Eric?
I move to amend the policy under Section 3, accounting for emergency cash reserves, to strike the last line of the paragraph and replace it with the emergency cash reserves shall be physically separated in a separate bank account.
I'll second that.
Policy.
Could you repeat it again?
Yeah,
So I
where is
move
that
to,
again?
under Section 3, accounting for emergency cash reserves, I move to strike the last sentence and replace it with the emergency cash reserves shall be physically segregated in a separate bank account.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the emergency cash reserves
Shall be segregated in a separate bank account.
I'm still lost. You said section 3?
Section 3 of the policy.
Is the policy in the packet?
No,
That's where she's missing.
That's why I couldn't find it.
it's in last meeting's packet.
Okay. Questions, Eric? Or I'm sorry, Eric. Mike?
Susan, what benefit or cost would changing that have?
There'd be the cost of setting up an account, so there would be fees, bank fees, I don't know what they are. And then there'd be the cost to reconcile that on a monthly basis. So it's an old school idea, frankly, to have a separate bank account for a fund anymore, and that the bank didn't require that for the funds that they're having us set aside, so.
Okay.
But if there are other concerns, like you'd want more frequent reporting, that would reassure board members that those monies are segregated, happy to do that. It is reported quarterly already.
Okay. Anyone else? Reg?
So I'd really like to ask Eric, why do we need to have a separate bank account? Because I'm not too clear.
So
could you explain
we've got an $11 million in emergency cash reserves.
Okay.
And this is a significant amount of money. And when you have it commingled with the rest of operating expenses, the question is, do we actually have a reserve account, or is it just a number on a ledger? The other concerns are, okay, we've got this earning interest. Where's the interest go? And $11 million is a fair amount of interest. Is that going back into the cash reserves, or is it going somewhere else? So these are a couple of concerns I have. I think it ensures that we know exactly what's going in, what's going out, because there'll be a separate record of that. And it might be old school, but still good practices. I know a lot of other HOAs have similar types of reserve accounts. I know Reston has Reston's got two separate accounts for reserves. It's not as uncommon as you might think, and it is good practice.
Susan?
I'm sorry, I just need to clarify that, yes, of course, there is, the funds are reserved for these purposes. It's not just a number on the ledger. I just needed to make that clear.
Thank you. Reg?
So I just wanted to go on with that for a second. Eric mentioned that commingling. It's not, how is it stored? It's not commingled right now.
It is.
It is?
Yes, it's separate on the general ledger. So there's a separate general ledger account for it, tracking the ins and outs of that. And
But
there
the
are
actual
no outs, obviously.
But the actual account in the bank would,
Right.
okay.
All right. Lynn?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe come up to the microphone if you can. Sorry.
No, that's great.
I just want to say there's also an opportunity where the funds are invested to separate them out into pools that are invested in different ways. And certainly if and when the yield curve changes again, and it's to our benefit to invest for a longer period of time, knowing that 11 million was not to be touched in the near term, other than for an emergency, we would take advantages of opportunities to do that. So we have the opportunity to earn the highest possible rate we can, given our investment policy on that money, whether it's in the same account as other funds or not, without the cost of the additional account.
Okay, Eric?
If the money is in the same account as the rest of the funds, wouldn't that by definition mean it's earning the same rate of return as the rest of the funds?
No, because it's in an account, a savings account where we literally take portions of the money and ladder it out to invest it for different terms in order to get the best rate of return on the pool.
So then it would be segregated anyway, because those would be in separate bond funds or separate ladders.
It's not segregated in the way that you're suggesting. It's the pool, and right now, it's all the same, because rightly or wrongly, for the last year, we've been earning 5% just to have it in a savings account, just like you have. Yeah. But prior to that, we had certain securities where we would invest money for 6 months and then for 12 months based on when we knew we would need it. And it's all in the same account, but it's managed, the investments are managed.
So let me ask this question. When do we need this money?
That's an unknown. That's why you weigh the cost of an early withdrawal penalty, which is unlikely, okay? A COVID or a major emergency, the probabilities of needing it in the near term are rather small. So you weigh that, the cost of needing to use it earlier with the benefit of investing it longer, and you come up with the right, that's what, money management's about.
All right, Mike?
I think we should defer to the financial expertise of our staff on this, and that we don't really need to get involved in this. And unless Sky or Bill or Colin or someone who hasn't spoken on this, wants to chime in, I'd like to call the question.
Colin, Sky? I had one question. Eric, are you aware of any code, standard, or regulation that would require us to move this money?
I'm not a legal expert, so I'm not aware of any legal requirements.
Okay.
I'm not aware of any. I do know other organizations do similar things as far as putting in a separate account, so it's so you can account for it separately, so you can handle it separately. But I'm not aware of any legal requirements.
Thank you. All right. So on the motion to segregate the emergency cash reserves, to change the policy, the last statement in section 3 to say that the emergency cash reserves shall be segregated in a segregated bank account. Chris?
No.
Okay. Sky?
No.
Reg?
Come back to me.
Okay. Karen?
Yes.
Mike?
No.
Eric?
Yes.
Colin?
No.
Reg?
No.
And I will vote no. So that's 2 for, and 6 against, 0 abstentions. All right, coming back to the main question, approve / renew the emergency cash reserve policy?
I'm sorry, point of order, you said 6 to 0?
Yeah, we got another member online.
There are 8 of us here
1, 2, 3,
voting.
4, 5, 6. 1, 2. 2, 6, 0.
Yeah, it
Oh,
should-
2,
it should
6,
be- it
0,
should be-
okay.
There should be kind of 8.
He has 8.
Yeah, that's 8.
That's right.
Right. I appreciate you guys doing my math. I've not done well tonight, so I appreciate it, but I think I got that one right.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, thank you. Good work. Main motion, approve, renew the emergency cash reserve policy. Any further discussion on this?
Yeah, I do have one question. With $11 million in reserves, does this cause us to dip into our line of credit sooner or later? So if you were to get down below or close to that level, would that mean we'd be dipping into our line of credit versus using cash reserves?
It might.
So this could make it more likely to, by approving this could make it more likely to use the line of credit.
I don't think that they're causal, so there would be other factors that would matter here. So I don't think, I can't give you a definitive answer on that.
I think the situation is there are so many variables. You couldn't say, well, it depends on how fast the onset of said emergency was and the availability of tools at that time, right?
No, it has nothing to do with the emergency itself. It's basically if we were to draw down the main account and we're getting close to 0 in the main account, and you basically, okay, you need more money, you have cash reserves versus line of credit, we'd be going into the line of credit before the cash reserves.
And that would be the case because these are supposed to be for an emergency.
Yes.
Right, this is last line.
Sorry?
Last line, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, sorry for opening the can, guys. All right, any other comment, input? Well, then we shall call the question again. Main motion, approve or renew the emergency cash reserve policy. Chris?
Yes.
Okay. Sky?
Yes.
Reg?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Eric?
No.
Colin?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. So that's 1, I guess, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, 1, 0. Yes. All right. All right. The strategic plan I believe this is an update in our old business.
Yes, a brief update on the process, just to keep the board informed. There's a memo in the packet that kind of walks through that, but we've completed the board interviews. Thank you all for participating in those. I thought they were very beneficial. As I mentioned in the last meeting, we hadn't completed them all. So part of that was getting recommendations on the board of priority areas of focus, thoughts on the draft 24 plan, and then thoughts on mission and vision redevelopment. So that was great. Part of this whole process is really working on the mission and vision. The SLT is working on it, but also part of our all hands meeting, we asked the staff if they would like to participate and submit ideas for mission and vision statements. And that's great. We received 15 responses to date from staff. And I have to say, I went through them. They were very insightful. They're really in line with what CA does. The wording is different, but I think they're great. So what we're going to do is try to filter those down a little bit to present some options for the board to consider in our next meeting when we present the outline of the strategic plan. We've also looked at refining the strategic focus areas as part of your comments from the board. I think you'll be pleased with what we're going to present next month. And then part of that is really now just making sure what we're pulling together aligns with what the board has requested and also with the community needs and priorities. So we will be back here at the next meeting to present what we've found and what we've heard from the board and what we think a new outline would be for the strategic plan and some priorities around that.
Okay. Any questions for Sean? Eric?
So with the I realize the strategic plan is still a work in progress. My question is, with the new strategic plan, how do you see the new strategic plan reshaping CA, reshaping Columbia? What if I were a resident? Well, I am a resident, but if I were a resident that's not on the board, what difference would I see?
Well, I mean, it's up to the board to decide what they want the final strategic plan to look like. One thing we've mentioned is having broader strategic focus areas with some guidelines underneath those or strategies, and then annually the board would get together to set goals for the year or the year or two, like we've done this year, that align with that strategic plan. So not so much detail of focus areas and a number of objectives, but really focus areas, some strategies that align with those focus areas, and then annually the board gets together to set goals that align with that strategic plan.
So how does that impact our residents?
I think it provides more flexibility to the residents. It allows boards to be more nimble in their decision and goal setting that align with the strategic plan by keeping the plan broad in its scope and what its core values are. I think that allows, like I said, each board to put their stamp on what they feel the strategic plan is and set goals around that.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Sean.
My pleasure.
On to new business. Quick head check. Anybody, do you think we need a recess for 5 minutes or anything? Everybody okay? Just checking. All right. We shall move on.
Bill, do you need a recess?
I'm good. Thank you for asking, though. Just opened my V8, so I'm good. So there we go. We are on to the timeline for headquarters. So this is the timeline for headquarters purchase. Sean?
Susan can walk through that.
So as you know, one of your goals for this year that you approved is to determine whether or not to exercise the lease, the option in this lease for this space to purchase the building before that option expires. You have to by April 30. So, and then the board also in line with that said consider evaluating the purchase of the building regardless of the option and evaluate other potential options. So we've laid out a timeline and we started doing some research and so, but most of these discussions, because they'll be in the nature of a transaction and negotiations, even, right now, not wanting to, to just make sure CA's interests are protected and well served, so they would be closed meetings. We'd also be engaged with our attorney through a lot of those. So timeline is to have meetings and hopefully to align them for your sakes, but when you already have a meeting, take advantage of the meetings in place. First, talk about, review the purchase option in the lease, the current market conditions in the area, and specifically about the the property. There'd be discussion about that analysis and some additional, more specifics, more detailed transactions. Talk about getting your feedback, what your goals are, revising those analysis and getting more information and possible terms, and then a final discussion and a vote. So, this is a little bit of a time-consuming process, and we'll rely heavily on some outside help. So this is a timeline that we laid out. And
Okay.
Sean's been, leading us through this too. So.
All right. Any questions about the timeline? Eric?
Yeah, so based on the CIP, this looks like it's at least an $11 million transaction. I'm not sure if that's still the case or not.
Okay. Eric, we're talking timeline.
So, yeah, I'm getting there.
Okay.
And on the timeline, I see 4 closed meetings, and I don't see any open meetings regarding this, so I'm a bit hesitant to be basically deciding what to do with the $11 million of our residents' money in closed meeting, especially considering that, this original contract was signed years ago, so shouldn't that be a record of the organization that is available?
I think I can provide some insight on that. So if the decision of the board when it's negotiating, if it was to discuss a purchase, would be discussed in a closed meeting because it's a negotiation. The board would make a formal vote in a public session if they were going to make the purchase. So there would be discussion around that purchase price or whatever the action is that the board would like to take. So when there's a negotiation process going on, that needs to be in closed session to protect, CA as a whole. From, if we're negotiating with somebody else and they're watching a public meeting and we're discussing a purchase price, that doesn't benefit CA in any way. So the board would discuss negotiate in closed session, agree on whatever, and then make the motion in open session for the formal vote.
So at one point, I don't see an open session on the calendar here. So where would that occur?
After the board would make a decision. So if there's no decision made, then there's no open session.
And we could amend the timeline to show that January meeting having an open portion.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you for the update. I look forward to the discussion. All right. Community programs and services insights.
All right, Dan Burns is here to give us a presentation.
I've got handouts.
All right.
So take one and pass them along, take one of each. You can refer to those later. They'll be involved in some of the stuff I'm talking about. Yeah. That one. That one, no, the middle one, that one. Thank you. Okay, well, what I'm going to go over for the next half an hour or so, actually keeps doing its own thing, will address some of the comments, questions, and assumptions that were made during the strategic priorities discussion. So it's a little bit timely. What we're going to kind of go through tonight is who we are, because it's not as kind of straightforward. It's community programs and services. It's marketing and customer care, and it's community engagement, and we all work together to really drive a lot of the things we're going to talk about. Then we're going to address some key highlights and statistics from the team. And then we're really going to get into answering kind of the question that was posed: what have we done for our residents in the community in terms of affordability and accessibility? And they largely fall into two buckets: kind of membership accessibility programs, and then programmatic accessibility. Been on too many airplanes the last couple of days. And then we'll just kind of wrap it up with a quick summary. So first, for community programs and services proper, that is largely our sport, recreation, and fitness facilities, our community services programs. Under the swim, we have the 23 outdoor pools in the swim center, the Fitness Supreme Sports Club. If you haven't gone over and seen the new renovation yet, you should. It's pretty fantastic. The Athletic Club and Columbia Gym. Golf with Hobbits Glen and Fairway Hills. Tennis and pickleball. They always want me to make sure I say pickleball with that. Long Reach, Ellen Brown, Wild Lake, and the Hobbits Glen clay courts. And there are tennis courts at the Athletic Club as well. Skating recreation, we have the ice rink, home of the Howard Huskies, and the Learn to Skate program, which is one of the largest in the state, one of the largest in the country, actually. And then the Sport and Skate Park, the Art Center, that does a lot of wonderful clay stuff, and Sean knows all about the gas-fired kiln.
Yes.
Sean got the tour when it was 110 degrees out, and we had to look inside. It was very toasty. And then the Youth and Teen Center and the archives. And we talked about the archives a little bit earlier tonight. It's here at headquarters. Then our major programs, school-age services, which is in 20 schools across the Columbia, multicultural programming, and camps. So that's the summary of kind of CP&S, community programs and services. Any questions? Yep.
Where's the Horse Center fall?
The Horse Center is, everybody, since the day I've gotten here, everybody's wanted to give me the Horse Center. I don't do animals. The Horse Center is actually in community operations, and it's a leased property.
Nay, sorry.
Don't we have a few tennis courts over by Locust Park Pool, too?
They're open space. They're community operations courts.
Oh, that's it. There we go.
There's
Okay.
basketball courts and tennis courts throughout that are open to the general community.
Got it.
Those are community operations courts.
Thank you for the clarification.
Dennis and I used to joke, everything inside the fence is me, everything outside the fence is him.
Got it.
Then looking at all the different facilities that we have, the number, if we include all 20 schools, that's actually 59 individual locations that we have our services in. And it's 2.439 million visits a year to all those. And you can see how they lay out across the different facilities, with the 3 fitness clubs garnering 1.14 million visits a year. The outdoor pools and the swim center combined are 569,000. The ice rink actually gets a lot of visits because of the Huskies and the Learn to Skate program. Those 2 programs keep the ice rink very, very busy. But you can see there's a tremendous amount of usage across the different programs. And if you're not a numbers person, there's the visual representation of the same information. The blue are the fitness facilities. The brick red is pools, and then followed by the ice rink. But you can just get a quick visual representation of what those visits look like. Now we move on to the Department of Marketing. Marketing is really how we get the word out about what we do. They really handle kind of 3 major things for the organization. Membership marketing, programmatic promotion, that's both revenue and non-revenue programs, as well as all the wonderful, this flyer, this pamphlet that I just handed out. Our graphic design team is pretty amazing and handles all the design and print production. We do all that in-house. So the Department of Marketing really handles that. Also includes the website, digital communications, all of digital marketing, all that you see that way. And then, welcome desk and customer care here at the headquarters, as well as a lot of the team works from home, are really the people who serve our members day in and day out. They handle a lot of the member member concerns, membership issues, any kind of issues, direct people where they need to go when they have questions. And again, they both do it here in person, over email and phone calls as well. Yes, sir.
Is the sales team part of the marketing team, or are they?
No, the sales team is part of community programs and services, so I lead them separately. Then community engagement. Community engagement is really the piece that ties all of this together. This is Robin Stimson, and she's the one who really goes out in the community and finds the partners that we're going to work with. When she first came, there was an analysis done, and it was found we had over almost 500 contacts in the community. But it was a very, I don't want to say, it was a big number, but one organization would have multiple contacts throughout the organization, and there was no coordination or no real impetus behind what we were doing. It was a little bit here, a little bit there, and really we're not able to leverage how we could help organizations and reach underserved parts of the community and support different programs. And so Robin is really the spearhead of that. She is constantly out meeting with people, coordinating between the different organizations and the members of the community with our team to make sure we can deliver the right programs at the right time. The way she does that is really by focusing on the 5 pillars of wellness that we focus here on. The main one, social community, we are about community building, and that's really a lot of what we do, almost all of what we do revolves around building community. Environmental and sustainability, that's again, we've heard that throughout the strategic planning process. That is who we are, and that carries through all of what we do, whether, Jeremy's team really helps support in the facilities and making sure our efforts and actions are behind that. Physical, we have all of our physical activities, wellness, the walking paths, keeping people active and moving, whether it's exercising or movement. And if you've kind of paid attention, we've spoken both of those language. That's been very intentional. There are members of our community who want to exercise, who want to work out, who have specific goals. Then there's members of our community where movement is the first step, and just getting up and moving and taking that first step in the journey, or that is their journey. So we've been very intentional about speaking to different audiences around that. Mental well-being. That's become a very big conversation since COVID. Or at the beginning of the meeting, you heard from Dr. Abby, who was on our medical advisory board and came on just a couple years ago, but has been a great asset in helping us on our journey on understanding what our voice is in the mental wellness space. We know there are physical benefit, or there are benefits, mental well-being benefits from physical activity. But there's other things that can be done as well, and whether it's us just guiding people in the right place. There's a mental health first aid certification that many team members have taken to be able to help spot people in trouble and guide them in the right direction. So the team is really taking an active role in that. And then the last one is intellectual. A lot of what we do, the Art Center, the archives, school aid services, but also whether you're learning new things and challenging the brain. We know the benefits of exercise on Parkinson's and many other diseases, and keeping the brain fresh. So there's always an intellectual aspect to what we do. And Robin goes out into the community with these in mind and helps connect how our team can live these and support the community while doing them. So it's a really great connection for the entire team. Couple examples of things that have happened. I hope everybody got a chance to see the community quilt. That was a pretty amazing project, and amazing partners all across the community coming together. There will be a road show on that pretty soon, so we'll be coming to a village near you soon. But that was a pretty special effort. The Change in Columbia conversations. We've had many of those and drawn out many different audiences and spoke on many topics. Jeremy spoke on environmental sustainability. We just had one where Anish from my team was part of the panel on being an immigrant in Colombia. So there's been many different aspects where we have those conversations. Blood drives, really supporting the community, partnering with Care First, Prepare for Success. I had a picture of Sean in here, but I think he intentionally took it off. Pulling together backpacks and notebooks and school supplies for the kids. We've been part of that program since its inception. I think it was 22 years ago. Working with Jeremy and his team on ensuring the diversity of our Lakefront Live programming, and we're reaching the audiences and that our community wants us to reach. So there's a lot of different ways that manifests itself. Any questions on any of those before we move on to some?
Just one of the other drives that I've seen in the gyms during the years has been the feminine products drive. That's also a big key help in the community too.
Yeah, and the coat drive, we're doing a coat drive right now. I should have said this is the beginning. This is a wide and shallow overview because the team does so much. That if I was going to list everything that the team did, we would be here all night. But yeah, there's just so many great efforts. We do food drives with Grassroots several times a year. The Teen Center works with Columbia Cares on a regular basis, helping as a food distribution center. So there's many efforts that are out there throughout the year. Just a few highlights and stats about who we are. Over 17,500 memberships, and that represents about 55,000 members. Community programs and services is about the FY25 estimate is $33 million. That represents 39% of the total FY25 CA estimate. I mentioned earlier 2.4 million visits in FY24 across all the programs, with 135,000 of those going to specific programs that serve kids. That's not kids just going to the pools or whatever. That's programs that are designed for kids that kids are attending. I talked about customer care, 47,000 calls and emails and walk-ins over FY24. They are really there supporting our community across a wide range of topics. And then to some comments and questions that were raised earlier, it's really hard for us to come up with a number on what we've done for affordability and accessibility because of the way our system tracks things, and it is something we are looking at for the new CRM. But for some of the things that we can really get a good approximation on, where there's a membership involved or guest passes, the floor of what kind of financial support was given to the community, primarily members or residents, in FY24 is $1.4 million. There is a lot of support that's out there, a lot of things that are in the budget that we accounted for and that we knew we were going to be doing, and we'll be going over some of those here in a minute. But that's the floor. That's what we can easily calculate and get an approximation on that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think you're going through there.
Some more, we talked about partner organizations. We partner with over 100 different organizations in the community and support them. There's well over 50 different affordability and accessibility programs and services that we offer. So there's many different gateways. This isn't all concentrated in one or two things that we do. The outdoor pools are one of only 3 certified autism centers in the state. The pools have been very much forward on working with the Maryland Autism Society. Now, this is a different organization that takes it to another level, but they actually helped us out with it. And we will be working on rolling this out across CP&S, but the pools took it on and worked through it last summer. So right before the summer started, we were certified. I thought this was really cool. People from around the world want to know about Columbia. Aaron and Amy have received requests for information from Ireland to South Africa. So we are famous around the world. And then as far as our website goes, we operate generally at a 97% of the website operating with zero ADA accessibility issues. Question is, and I ask this question of Tim all the time, why not 100? Because it's always a moving target. Whether it's the tools that we use, update and change, and then we have to go chase that, the regulations change, or even the content we have, or some legacy content that we can't get rid of yet. PDFs are a big one that we're working on getting rid of. That there's just a few things there, but the team does a really, really good job of making as much of that accessible as possible.
Oh, one of those are board packets. So
yes, yeah, that is those are that, but that's a non-accessibility. That's 1% of that.
Dan, I have a
Yes.
question.
Yep.
Are all 23 outdoor pools certified autism centers?
Yeah, the entire,
Really?
well, they're certified, yes, they're certified autism centers. And then we have, and it's a later slide, but McGill's Common Pool is a sensory pool. So
Right.
that one's a very specific, we've been working, that's been in place, and it was Howard County Autism Society, and they recently expanded and merged with Maryland, so now they're the Maryland Autism Society. But that is a sensory pool that provides a different level, an even additional higher level of service for those with autism, and a different level of training as well. Okay, now we'll get into a little bit of what some of that means. So the first thing, and I knew you weren't going to be able to read this, that's why I handed these out. All that information is just the inside of this lovely pamphlet here. So these are all of the memberships we have and how they all integrate, what they include. I think I heard somebody say earlier they didn't even know we had a Fit and Play membership. Yeah, all of these memberships are laid out and they're all connected. And because it came up tonight, I will give a brief history. And I have 40 minutes. So when I first arrived at CA, this was what was on the table. The board had directed the staff to reduce and simplify the memberships. And that was a multi-year process. It was 2.5, 3 years easy to pull all the information in. We hired a consultant. Well, the consultant was hired before I came to do the assessment, the needs assessment, gather all the information. They made some recommendations. Then we had to come back and do all of the work. And this was just to remain revenue neutral. The board directed staff to make sure the memberships were revenue neutral. So that's where all of these memberships came from, and the way they're integrated and the way they're stacked together. And Sky is right. They are very much integrated, and changing one piece would change things dramatically. And I think it's a conversation for a different day. But subscription models are very challenging to work with if you've never worked with them before, and that's basically what a membership is. It's a subscription model. But just for reference, in any one given fiscal year, if you reduce the price, or we can say increase, if you increase the price $1, that represents $17,500 a month or $210,000 a year. So if you reduce it by $1, for that fiscal year, you've already given up $210,000. And we would need about 200 memberships on average immediately to make that up. So it is a very complex thing. That's why it took so long to work through everything and get to where we needed to be, particularly to remain revenue neutral, and just restructuring the memberships. So it is a very complex and sensitive thing to work through from a financial aspect, but also in what it does for the community. And that's why one of the reasons it took so long to get, because we had to absorb all the feedback that we heard from the community on developing these.
Dan, can you define revenue neutral?
It just means that, if, in the previous fiscal year or the current fiscal year we were in, if we did $15 million in membership dues, that after we restructured, it should be $15 million in dues, plus if we were going to do any kind of dues increase. So it just should be as if nothing happened from a revenue standpoint.
Did CA ever take a survey after changing the plans to see whether people prefer the new way versus the old package plan way?
Well, I can tell you this. We didn't do a survey. I can tell you until COVID, memberships were increasing when they had been declining when I came. They were on a multi-year decline, particularly Package Plan Plus were declining. And up until COVID, obviously COVID reset the clock for everybody. But Package Plan, or Fit and Play, CA Fit and Play, were growing. And I think one of the most interesting things, because I hear a lot about the Play membership, just a fun fact, we didn't charge any more for the Play membership when we created it. It's the same price as the old Swim membership. We just added more stuff to it, made it more family friendly. On all the terms stayed the same. But, and the Play was really, the core of the Play is the combination of the old tennis and the old Swim membership, which was the outdoor pools in the swim center. When we did the conversion, we had 2,600 combined tennis and swim memberships. We have 5,000 Play memberships. So, and we sold, actually, if I remember, because it kind of blew my mind, we sold like 900 Play memberships when it was first introduced. The Play actually has been extremely popular, across the board. Thanks. Here's a little interesting thing, because we talked about the rates a lot. So I wanted to look and say, how have we been doing historically? Sean asked me, where'd you come up with 1997? I reached out to Aaron and said, what's the oldest membership rate you could find? Because I wanted to see, as an organization, how historically have we handled our rate increases. And so I was able to find, Aaron was able to find 1997. And those are the Package Plan Plus membership, which is 99% identical to the Fit and Play. There are a few minor changes.
Are these monthly or annual?
Monthly.
Thank you.
Monthly rates. So I just wanted to see what would happen if we kept up with inflation. And because we have been, since I've been here, the average increase is about 3%. Sometimes a little more, and when the minimum wage went up, the board directed us to try to recover as much as possible from the membership rates. So there was a year where it was 5%. But generally, we try to stay within that 3% range. And sometimes, like with the Play membership, it'll be 5%, but it's only $1. It's just because we don't do partial cents. So I looked at inflation for April of 1997, which would have been the end of that fiscal year, and then September of 2024. And for the new member rate, and I'll get into the difference in new member and renewal here in a second, because that's another thing that we do for our members. The single Package Plan Plus in 1997 was $65.50. If we had kept up with inflation, it would be $128.41. That's $30 less. And on the renewal, the variance is even greater, where we've really kept those behind and really kind of maintained a steady increase rather than trying to always cover our cost, the cost of inflation across the years.
So when you get to the end of the slide, I have a question. So,
Oh, go ahead.
Do you have anything?
No.
Do you have, this is revenue. Do you have an expenses slide between 97 and now?
No, I was just looking at membership.
That would be really helpful.
Yes, yes. Good question.
Do you have another question on this? Is the variance similar for non-resident membership prices?
It's a little bit greater for non-resident, but it's not dramatically different.
So the non-resident memberships have also been below inflation?
Yes, because we've kept up with market, because it's the relationship between, they're not disconnected. So they're always going to be, if we keep one lower, the other one stays relative, because there is a relative connection between them. They're not two independent things.
Why aren't they independent things?
Because the board has directed over time that the non-resident should pay market rate, and the resident should get a discount, and that's the discount has been maintained.
So market rate has not kept up with inflation.
Well, the market hasn't.
Yeah. Well, it's the same idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just for clarification, the non-resident market rate over this term has kept up with what the general market for fitness memberships would be over the term.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that dictates where we're at.
Okay.
You know, the market. If we decide we're just going to go over market, then we just won't have any members. We could do that, but I've been there. I know what that looks like. I've seen that movie. You know, the market dictates. I'm on an executive roundtable with other club owners and executives, and a lot of time people are like, "What do you guys charge for this?" Well, it doesn't matter. What's your market? You know, you can only charge what your market can bear. So that is part of the dictation. But this is, again, and it varies between memberships, but this doesn't include the variance between, this is just resident rate to resident rate. So if you looked at this compared to market, that gap is going to be dramatic.
Got it.
Okay, then I mentioned renewal rate. So one of the things we do for our members is at the end of your first year, if you do an annual agreement, you can either go month to month, which means that you're not committed to anything. You could cancel at any time. And if you do that, you go to whatever the current rate is. But if you renew, we give you a renewal rate. And what this represents are for the Fit and Play and the Play. We have a OneFit membership that's in there, but it's just got to be redundant. What that looks like for the renewal rate. So we have the Fit and Play family. If you're a new member, because a lot of times when we quote rates, we talk about new member, but a lot of our members are renewals. The new member family is $136 a month, where renewal is $118 a month. So automatically, just for renewing after your initial term, your rate drops $18 a month. And there you can see it's $18, $10, and then $13, $765 for the Play memberships. So there are automatic savings built in for loyalty and for staying with us.
So I do want to point out that I see advertisements all the time that get a Fit and Play membership, get 1 month free, get 2 months free. Doesn't that sort of diminish the value of that discount?
No, because if you do 1 month free, then you're signing a 13-month agreement.
Okay.
So you're still paying 12 months. You still pay 12 months no matter what you get.
But you're dividing by 13, so the monthly payment's still less, averaged out.
You know, if you average it out, yes, but you're still paying the same value.
Next slide.
Any other questions? Okay. Now we'll get into a little bit of the accessibility programs and some of the things we do outside of the membership. membership accessibility programs out of the paid membership. So income qualified memberships. So this is residents only. To be eligible for the income qualified membership, we use the HUD guidelines, and there are specific limits for Howard County. Each county has their own limits. So we use what the limits are, and it's based on the median income of the community. And we use the most generous, the highest. There's 3 tiers, the highest tier, which is 80% of the median income for that. And with that, you get a 50% reduction in your membership fee. In FY25, we have about 1,000 memberships, income qualified memberships. That represents 2,600 members. And that relates to about $553,000 in fee accommodation across the fiscal year.
Is there any slide, or is there any scale for this, or is it just?
No, it's 50%. Okay. There used to be, when we did the membership restructure, it was actually, there was 75 and 50. And when we did the membership restructure, was it 25% discount? It was, you paid 75%, right?
I honestly don't recall which way it went, but there were so few people in that tier. We couldn't continue it. And it was part of the desire to make them simpler in the
Yeah, and we collapsed it into just gave everybody 50% off.
What does someone need to submit in order to prove that?
That is generally, it's usually a statement from the IRS, the tax returns, to show that you will fall within those guidelines.
Just like a copy of the tax returns is.
And there's a link on the website where they can go and easily request that if they don't have it. There are a few other things as well. We try to work with them on that.
Okay.
I know you had this on an earlier slide, but my memory's not that good. Relative to the overall members, like what's the overall member number versus?
The member or memberships? There's
either one.
There's about 17,500, a little slightly more memberships. So, and then there's 1,000 income qualified memberships.
Okay, so ballpark 5% or so. Okay.
Then the CA Points program, which came up at the last meeting, and there were a few comments about it, so I had Jen put together a little summary of that. It's for Columbia, Maryland schools, 21 participating schools. We added another school this year, and don't ask me, I can't remember which one it is. I was just going to say it, and it's just not in my brain.
Thunderhill.
Thunderhill. That's the one who is holding out. And this largely focuses on students in the free and reduced meal program to earn a membership. It's on grade improvement, attendance, things where they can make improvement, and it's the teacher reporting it to us. We actually don't have access to the information. We have the program goes for the first 3 quarters of the school year. Then they earn their membership. We do all the data. Then it starts June 1st. So currently we have 560 memberships that were earned last year. And again, that's about $700,000 in fee accommodation. But we can see for this year already, we have 850 students enrolled in that, in the program. It's a very successful program. We work closely with Howard County Schools. There was some conversation at the last board meeting about this program and its impact on the students. That is something that we have worked very closely with the school system to make sure that the program is supportive of the students and done in a way that is respectful, and the school is extremely behind it. The liaisons, each school has to have a liaison. They're incredibly enthusiastic and excited to push out the program. And the pictures you see there are Jen, actually, and our customer care team is responsible for the CA Points program. And she, 2 years ago, decided to start doing a picnic. So many people come and register for the picnic, we actually had to hold 2 of them to accommodate everyone. And people were just so grateful for the opportunity and the chance to earn the membership, and it's for the entire family.
Eric?
So I guess one of my concerns is how do we support Columbia CA students that don't attend one of these schools?
There are many other, we're going through all the different programs and accessibility opportunities that we have. That's why we're having this conversation.
So just in a prior slide, we said that the before and after care was at 21 schools. 20 schools, so we have 21 participating schools here. Yeah. Is that 100%, is that Venn diagram a circle or?
No.
Okay.
No, there's some overlap.
Are we working on that?
Yeah, no, because some of the school age services schools are not.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Because we had to, if we're going to do it, you take these, the county takes these, so it wasn't, it's not our choice.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah. The Columbia card, we've talked about this before. It's for residents only, preferred pricing on admissions and programming. 2 years ago, we added 4 pool admission passes to be used Monday through Thursday, Memorial through Labor Day. In FY20, the Q1 FY25 report, we had 4,600 Columbia cards out there. And we actually began this year because the conversation is, well, how do we know when people leave? When people cancel their membership, we know what happens to them. So we began parsing out the list at the beginning of the fiscal year. And we're going to do this every year. We look back 2 years. And if you haven't used your card, we deactivate it. It's easy to restart. But this way we have an idea of how many of these are kind of actively being used. So every one of these has been used within at least the last 2 fiscal years.
The Columbia card can only be used for the outdoor pools?
The pool passes, yes, but the Columbia card, no. That's good with on any program or service.
Okay.
A little more detail on the pool admission passes. Like I said, we started in 2022. The first year we had 1,500 visits. This year we had 1,900 visits. And that equates to about a $13,000 redemption value for those cards. The interesting with this, because it's like, did we create more accessibility, and what we found was we saw a corresponding drop in paid admissions. The people we're paying for the pools are using the passes, but I'm not sure we really reached an entirely new audience. So that's something we have to look at.
How do we market this?
It's pushed out. When I first came, we actually didn't market it, but now it's everywhere. The customer care team pushes it. My membership team pushes it. When they go out and visit, we've been talking about apartments a lot. My team goes to apartment complexes a lot. And they always take Columbia card information with them. When we do tabling, our street team, when they're out, they have Columbia card information as well as membership information. So it's out there. Then the second Sunday swim, which has been a staple of the pools, the second Sunday, June through August. We had 745 admissions this summer. And again, it's about $6,300 in redemption value. And it just keeps going. Now we get into some of the more programmatic things that we do. The income qualified discount is not just for membership. We carry that over to a lot of different programs and carry the 50% discount off, fee support off. School age services, we have 43 students this year currently. Camps, we had 19 participate for 79 sessions. That means the 19 registered for multiple sessions throughout the summer. And CNSL was 85 income qualified participants. Talking a lot. And then we also have extended income qualified pricing throughout the fitness as well. Martial arts, which is one of our huge kids programs, has been pulled into, and we're rolling it out to other CP&S programming where it makes sense. Some things it's more challenging, like personal training. If we gave a 50% discount, we would be losing money. So it makes some of those things harder to do. We do income qualified group swim lessons, so group things we can do where it's easily to manage. So it's available in a lot of different places throughout. And that's a relatively new thing. Previously it had been largely confined to these programs that you see here.
All right. Dan, just for a heads up, we currently hit our allotted time here. How many slides do you have left?
I can just go through the rest real quick.
I think the board's pretty interested in what you're doing here. I think we can go a little farther. I just want to be cognizant
There's
of
not
everybody's
too many.
time.
There's only a handful left.
Keep going. I think you're doing great.
The ice rink, we offer free field trips to the Howard County Public Schools to bring their kids over. Their risk management teams aren't as happy when the kids do it, but the kids have a lot of fun. We offer 40% discount on ice fees to the Howard County Scholastic Hockey Association. Again, how we're helping kids in the community. The sports park partners with the Harper's Choice Middle School after school program and has them come over and do some events there at different times throughout the year. Again, we work with other nonprofits serving underserved populations to make sure they can find a way to come and enjoy the sports park, the sports park, the mini golf and batting cages. The fitness team, free martial arts, anti-bullying programs. And we go into the schools and do programs. We go into the school age service programs and do martial arts programs. The middle school take over with the teen center at Supreme. They get to come in and spend the night and have a lot of fun. The Supreme Sports Club and then the Athletic Club teamed up with the Teen Center to create a after-school gaming and tutoring with the program with the Teen Advisory Committee. We work with Columbia Cares, Peace and Justice we created a youth volleyball program. They come in and play volleyball in the afternoons. It gives them something to do. And it's something that started off slow and now is going gangbusters. We get a lot of attendance, especially a lot of young girls. So that's really a lot of fun. Multicultural programs, we have the language cafes. We partner with the Howard County Public Library System on that, and it brings all the different cultures of our community together to speak with others who speak the language, their native language, or to learn another. So it's a really great cross-cultural program. The Youth and Teen Center, we had eliminated the drop-in enrichment program fee. There used to be a fee if you didn't register and you just wanted to drop in, there was a fee. That was eliminated. So now anybody at any time can come drop into the Teen Center and participate in the programming. The archives even discounts for images of images and documents for teachers, students, nonprofits. Again, just how can we help get that information out there and make it accessible? There's just Aaron. If you haven't been to Supreme Sports Club, go and look at the display Aaron did on the history of Supreme Sports Club. There was one at Hobbits Glen. She does them all across the community. I actually had to coach her on how not to do so many because they take a lot of time, but they love doing them. They love telling the story. But we do everything we can to get that message out and make all the resources that we have here available to everyone in the community. Art Center, Girls on Fire, young girl development program. They come in and do a lot of programming. Arc of Howard County, we do a lot of work with Arc of Howard County. And that's in the next one as well. Special Needs Group, they just changed their name, and I can't remember exactly what it is, again, deal with special needs youth and come in and get discounted programming. The neurodiverse community, we have many team members who are part of the neurodiverse community. I mentioned earlier McGill's Common Pool is a sensory pool in conjunction with Maryland Autism Society. That's some of the resources up in the picture. The upper picture is some of the resources that we have, but that provides additional training even beyond the certification. The certification included signage and website, and there was a lot more to that in addition to training. Again, I mentioned the fitness clubs and the ice rink partner with Howard County Public Schools and ARC to provide both volunteer and employment opportunities for neurodiverse individuals. Aquatics and tennis does a ton of work with the Maryland Special Olympics. So we're really proud of all that work that the team does there. Okay, any questions on the programming? There's a lot.
Hey, we've been going through all this, and I can't see Chris online. Okay, Chris, do you have any questions for Dan so far in the slide deck at all?
I'm loving everything I'm seeing. I especially like the focus on those with that are differently abled. So I love everything that I'm hearing about this.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Just wanted to check in. Anybody else? Go ahead.
And last, just a quick summary of some of the things we talked about. You know, it's, again, the team deals with over 2.4 million visits a year. That's a lot. $33 million in revenue, 39% of the total estimate. You know, well over 50. Like I said, I could have kept going all night. There's a whole spreadsheet that we update, and we continually update, so we're always evaluating what we're doing and where the gaps are. And the team is always coming up with ideas. You know, going back to the question about, is it in the budget? It is. There's well over $1.4 million of support. And if we were able to capture it all, I would be hard pressed not to say that's not pushing $2 million with all that we do. And that, you know, we're all across the community, you know, partnering with at least 100 different organizations to try to reach all different areas and aspects of the community and how we can help support everyone in Columbia.
Okay.
And that is it.
Dan, thanks for a pretty thorough presentation there. Sean, did you have anything?
No, I mean, Dan and I have been talking about this for a while in this presentation, and I think it's good for the board to see. I think sometimes when, you know, you're not seeing the big picture, just tend to think, you know, the focus with the CA and the staff is affordability and accessibility. And it took Dan a long time to go through that because there's a lot that's being done currently. There's always ways to do more. But, you know, I think, you know, let's not lose sight or lose appreciation for what's currently being done. And, you know, the CPNS, you know, Dan's got a tough position in that, you know, we're a nonprofit, but that needs to be run like a business because that is a business. But also, you know, being cognizant of being a nonprofit. So when almost 5% of the revenue is really going back in kind services and discounted programs, that's you know, I don't think you see a lot of other businesses doing that. So I think it's important. I think it's good for the public to understand too that there's a lot of programs. I know Dan and the staff try to get the public to take advantage and the residents of all the programs, but there's so many, it's hard to kind of push that all the time, but his group does a good job of that.
All right, thanks. Colin?
So just thank you very much, Dan. This was 15 out of 10. You have a ginormous portfolio, and your team does exceptional work. I was just like, the thing that I wrote down, like that it just, everything you all do is the soul of CA, like it just really adds life and vibrancy. So thank you, and thank your team for all the work.
It's the team. This is what brings them in every day.
Absolutely. And, you know, to Sean's point, you know, I think it's great to hear and learn more about all of the different accessibility programs. I think, or I hope that there's more that we can be doing and more that we can be thinking about. I'm particularly interested in thinking about like what a slide might look like for income adjustment. The other thing that I'm interested in at some point, particularly with memberships of different using of facilities, if we had some way to have like average visits per membership with a standard deviation, which that sounds crazy, but like I'm thinking, for example, you know, I have a Fit and Play and I probably ended up using the pool 4 times compared to the chair over here who probably used it 400 times, right? Mm-hmm. And having kind of what the average is and kind of a standard deviation, I think that would be an interesting statistic for me to see across the different facilities that we have.
I agree, especially the standard deviation.
We're getting back to the data analytics that we talked about earlier tonight. Speaking of which, Reg, you said that you had some questions. Do you have any come to mind at this time?
No.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Checking in. Thank you. Mike?
I got a bunch of questions, but I'll put them in the work app because they take too long. But one thing in particular that I'm interested in, and I don't need an answer now, is just were the key highlights that you had on that last screen, are those like the kind of things that you use to measure your own success across community programs and service? Or is there like a separate thing and those were just kind of the highlights that you thought the board would be interested in? And whatever those like key metrics of success are, do we have, including those highlights, like do we have historical trending on them? Because that would help, I think, the board really visualize like, hey, no, there is a difference occurring over the years, right? Just the snapshot's great. The trending would be really helpful, I think.
Yeah. The answer is yes. It's a little, those are high level. It's actually, I was just at a conference and I gave a talk on KPIs and it all cascades down. Those are some of the high level aggregate ones that we look at. But then each layer down, there's a different set of metrics that as you get closer to the actual. But from an overall organizational, those are some of the key things that we look at. The trending, challenging, because the last 4 years I'm trending through the roof. COVID blew all the trends out of the water. But I can say that most of them are better than pre-COVID.
All right. I think we're there. Thank you, Dan. Thanks for everybody. Very good. Moving on, questions only. President's report. Any questions regarding the President's report? Okay. State and local pre-filed. I don't think we have anything at this time. John, is that correct?
No, we may have something next month, although it's more likely in December.
Thank you. Inner Harbor Trust report. Yes.
I was just going to say that I really appreciate that they took the time to put the revenue in there this time. It would be good if that was side by side with costs as well. But I just want to mainly focus on the positive. That was good, and it would be good if like the revenue and costs were a regular fixture in those reports.
Mm-hmm. So you'd like to see that on?
Yeah, well, I think so. And maybe it doesn't have to be like definitely not every month, but like twice a year would probably would be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Bill?
Yes.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Michael. Thanks. I really appreciate the financial information, and I would. The financial information seems to be summaries rather than details. And one thing that sort of struck me was on page 4, I guess. This page.
Oh, okay.
The bottom, the chart, I don't know the difference between a contribution and earned income or grants. I wonder if earned income could be cut up more into the different categories. And for example, the year 2022 was about 400,000. Then the next year it went down to 175,000. The next year again up to nearly 400,000, and the following year down to 175,000, which just seemed interesting to me.
So I'm not following. What are you saying?
The earned income on this page, at the bottom of the page, 1 year it's twice as much as the following year, and then it goes back up again, and then it goes down to half, and then it goes up again, and I'm just wondering, and I'd like some more details as to where the IAT gets their money. I know it says in here a couple of places that it's mostly from the state and the county, and I think
and the federal government
earned income.
Okay.
I would just like a better handle on that. As Michael said, at least a couple times a year or.
All right, so members that are working with the IAT, if we could just relay those back up the chain.
Oh, yeah.
Eric?
No real comments. I just think we're getting a little too much in the weeds of what the IAT board's responsible for.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right. Chairman's remarks, I think this has been quite an evening tonight. I didn't have anything more. I think getting out of here sooner would probably be better. So, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll go with Reg. Eric seconds, yes? Second. Any opposition? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all.